All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's office hours. Super excited to have you guys. Super excited to have our guest tonight, because one thing I can tell you is that we are going to bring it, and we are going to bring it the right way. I've got my friend Leigh Brown here joining us on the show. Leigh, go ahead and say hello, and then I'll set up the show here for a moment.
Hey, everybody. So it's always nice to talk to people who have accents. I don't have to hide mine at all.
Yeah, you know, I was just thinking before the show, you're probably the first guest that I've had on that if they have a stronger accent than me and it's not Cajun, that's a unique thing. So I'm liking this a lot. You're bringing out the Southern, which a lot of our audience can really identify with.
Aww.
So.
You know, I have some Justin Wilson records. I should have listened to those before the show, and then I would have my Cajun on.
There you
young
go.
People
hey,
don't know who Justin Wilson is, but they need to go look it up.
That's pretty good. That's a nice reference. That's showing that you know the Cajun stuff, and a shout out to our Bayou folks out there.
In their parishes, because y'all don't have counties, y'all got parishes, which is weird.
That is correct. Hey, you know, we like to do things our own way down here, so just leave us be, because it gets really bad if you try to get in the way of that. I mean, we still like to have civil law. We don't even want the same legal system as the rest of y'all. So, you know.
But I've seen some of the people y'all have elected, so I think y'all should probably keep some of your legal system.
I take no responsibility for any of that, but it's all 100%
Wait a minute.
true.
If you didn't vote, that's when you have no responsibility. You vote, correct?
Of course I vote.
Every time? Primaries and general?
Oh, of course I do. Even the little stuff like the millages that they sneak in there on a special election that people don't pay attention to, I'm on those too, every time.
Well, see, it's actually important to talk about that, because any of these new realtors that watch your show, and I know they're coming out of your school ready to rock and roll and they're raring to go, they don't know coming out of licensing school often how critical it is for realtors to vote and to stay engaged and active, because we know more than anybody else about our community. So that's why I do pepper people, and it's why the general is not the only election that matters. It's the primaries too.
Absolutely. And listen, you were just talking about Louisiana politics. I mean, right now we're in our legislative session locally, and there's all kinds of stuff on the docket dealing with real estate directly. So it's absolutely worth paying attention to. And you know what? We could talk a little bit about your RPAC Hall of Fame. We could squeeze that in here in a little bit, because we can wrap politics all night long. So
exactly.
Real quick, let me introduce the show to anybody that is not familiar with office hours. I know a lot of you guys are loyal listeners. The reason we do it live is for one reason, so that we can take your questions whenever me and Leigh get finished ranting and raving about Zillow. So if you'd like to ask a question, please do. There's 3 ways you can do it. My favorite way is on Twitter. Use the hashtag office hours, and we'll be looking out for it. The second way is to post. If you're in the Facebook event, post it there. Or of course, if you're watching this live stream on YouTube or on Facebook, post your question in the comments. We've got a super awesome Lizzie off camera over here who's monitoring all that stuff. So if you've got a question at any point about what we talk about, please feel free to ask. That's why we do it live. We do it for you guys. So tonight we're talking, the title of the show is Zillow is Not Your Problem. And I think the subject has really been hot for the last couple of weeks, because number one, you just say the word Zillow or Zestimate, and you're going to get the blood temperatures boiling in any room full of realtors. But specifically the last couple of weeks, Zillow unveiled what they call instant offers. And for whatever reason, it's only in 2 pilot markets, but it has got the real estate world singing, dancing, screaming, yelling, and everything under the sun. And so my good friend Leigh has been ranting about this just like I have to a lot of you guys. I thought there's nobody smarter and probably more authentic to talk a little bit of Zillow with me tonight than Leigh. So Leigh Brown, tell them a little bit about yourself real quick. Introduce yourself to our audience that may not know you, and then let's talk Zillow.
Okay, so there it goes. The internet went wonky for a second. So, hey, Chris's audience. I'm a realtor in Concord, North Carolina, which is a suburb of Charlotte. I've been a realtor for 17 years full-time. Prior to that, I sold chainsaws, weed trimmers, and lawnmowers for Husqvarna. I was the only woman on the sales force. And one of my territories was Texas, so that's why I spent some time in Cajun country. And in the last few years, I've taken my real estate business to a different place where I do a lot of speaking and instructing to realtors across the country and around the world to help them improve their image with consumers, to help them change their businesses, be more professional. So that's the little bits of what I do. So if you're looking to follow me on these internets, you'll see sometimes it's listings and buyers because I do still work in the trenches. Sometimes it's motivational and training stuff. And then sometimes it's just me being a mama and you'll see my kids on my post all the time.
And wait, there's one more piece of your bio you left out, just so everybody knows. How many cats do you have currently?
All right. So there's 3 cats in my house. They do not belong to me. One is my daughter's personal cat because it has anxiety and it can't come out of her room. So that's a special needs cat. The other 2 belong to my husband because this one lady found a litter of them behind a dumpster and he fell for it and took 2 of them home. So that's why they're available for adoption. So if any of y'all want house cats, I will say they snuck out of the screen porch. I will never rat you out.
There. Okay. Wow. Look, it's out there now. It's on the interwebs. So now we all know. Well, listen, you guys, the reason, the last thing, so folks that know me well, I'm kind of an authentic, say it like it is person as well, but I don't quite have the guts as you do, Leigh. I don't think all of the time. And so really, why don't you just talk a little bit about your initial thoughts on Zillow Instant Offers, all of the screaming and yelling about it. Like, what's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear that term, when you see that stuff? What are your thoughts about it?
It's just a distraction. That's all any of this stuff is. And I watch social media, which, remember, it's supposed to be sociable, but people have turned it into a daggum scream fest about things they're mad about and what other people are thinking and other people are doing. They're completely not focused on what they can control and their responsibilities. So when something happens like a website, which makes its revenue from selling advertising to realtors, where they're testing something in a marketplace, the only realtors who get scared and start screaming are the ones who don't understand their value proposition. They don't know what they do. They're just panicked because they do think real estate could go the way of the travel agent industry. Well, you know what? There's still travel agents out there. They're quite good at what they do. They're specialists and they're not bothered by websites because what they provide is different. And so will there be disruption in our industry? Yes. Will it be Zillow? I doubt it because they're too big now to really disrupt. But you'll see other things happen. But when you get distracted from your business, you don't make any money. You don't sell any houses. You don't get better at the craft of real estate because I'll tell you, this game changes. And if you're learning from people who once sold a house in 1978, that's not the same thing that we deal with today's consumer, today's expectations, the technology, the license law changes, the contract changes. I'm sure y'all's is like North Carolina. It changes all the time as they tweak the clauses in the contract. That's what we do. So if you start focusing on things like Zillow, you can't keep up with the things that actually matter to your clients. And it drives me completely batshit crazy. And so then you say you wish you had the guts to say what I say. I haven't even said a fraction of what I think because I don't have the guts to say what I really think because I'm still working on that. But realtors are the most easily distracted people ever. They have all ADD. And we kind of have to because if a client texts or calls because their house came on the market right now in a hot market, you don't have a choice. You have to go show it. I get that. You live a distracted world. So you allow something like Zillow to take away the space that you need to devote to the house that your clients have disclosure questions about or insurance questions about. And then you can't do your job well. And when you can't do your job well, you will go out of business.
Yeah, I think that is very well said. I mean, listen, the people that are involved in the tech industry at the highest levels, I mean, we're talking about Facebook, Elon Musk, okay, the guy that is trying to go to Mars, people that are involved with Google and Netflix, you name it. All of these folks are telling you that technology is way, way far away from replacing humans in incredibly difficult, complex tasks like buying a piece of real estate. And I think this whole concept, I just want to make sure that everybody is clear because I know me and Leigh are on the same page. Zillow is not there to replace you. And if you spend your time worrying about Zillow replacing you, you're taking your eye off the ball. You're not doing the things that grow your business. You're not doing the things that the consumer wants to see out of you. You're filling out petitions online about stop at Zillow when you could be making prospecting calls, making better marketing, whatever the case may be. You know,
I mean, that is a colossal joke to me. I still can't believe that. And you know what's funny too? So let's take a higher level look at what Zillow's doing with this instant offers. So if you're a newer realtor, I get it. A lot of this goes over your head because you are drinking out of a fire hose right now. So just first of all, understand your job is to have conversations and dialogue with people who buy and sell real estate. That's your job. And then you take those conversations and dialogues to other places. Now, the reason you keep up with stuff like Zillow is because it will enter those dialogues. You're going to go on a listing appointment. You already feel clueless and lost because pricing is very hard to understand and to learn how to do properly. And then that consumer slides a piece of paper across the table at you with a Zestimate on it, which is the number Zillow came up with. You don't really trust yourself to combat that. So that's why you've got to get educated so you can combat it. You can't pretend it doesn't exist. Zillow exists, Zestimates exist, and people out there in the public who visit that website think it's credible until you explain to them why it's not. So with that being said, look at the markets where Zillow is testing this out. It's Orlando and Las Vegas. What has happened in those two markets in the last couple of cycles? They peaked first, they gullied hardest. They came back fast. They're not at sustainable levels. So if we look at what they're doing, the offers that a consumer seller gets, I really want to call a seller a consumer. I mean, they're consumer real estate services, but the seller of a home. So let's say they get a number from Zillow. It's a deeply discounted number. It's designed for somebody who needs to cut and run. That's what's going to happen when we hit the next recessionary cycle, which is coming. And it's something realtors don't like to talk about because in general, realtors are not people with economic backgrounds. They don't get the data and the charts and the indicators, and so they hide from it. Well, what happened in the last downturn is realtors weren't prepared to talk about short sales. They weren't prepared to talk about distressed properties and getting people out from under the burden of a house. And so people lost homes because realtors didn't want to get educated. Or they were stubborn and said it was too hard and too long and too difficult. And I get it. It's hard to have to move. But we didn't move last time, y'all. I really feel like Zillow is preparing themselves to be a resource for the financially distressed over the next several months when it's going to hit us. And if we're, as realtors, going to give value in addition to that, we should be updating ourselves on short sales, foreclosures, how to help those in financial distress. Because today is bright and sunny, but that does not mean that evening is not coming. This is a cyclical business. You have to be adapted to that. And so you think about Zillow's brilliance in being a resource for people. It's what we do. They're not going to replace you if you have.
Uh-oh. Looks like Leigh froze up on me. It's probably just that North Carolina internet. We'll get her back here in just a moment. Let me jump in while we're getting her back and make sure that you guys understand what she was talking about. And a couple of things. Number one, when it comes to economic cycles, if you look at what Zillow is doing right now, essentially worrying about what Zillow is doing is distracting from reality. Let me give you a couple of numbers. And I see we got Leigh back. I'm glad the internet is still there. But let's talk about reality. See, the biggest thing is that, look, Leigh, myself, I'm not going to start the next Facebook. At least I don't think so. I don't have the money or the purse to compete with Zillow or Google or any of these guys. So why don't we figure out what they're doing and apply it to our business? So as an example, let's look at the search traffic. Okay, Zillow.com gets, this is Realtor.com giving us these statistics, by the way. Zillow.com had 78 million unique searches in April of 2017, followed by Realtor.com at 42 million. Then there's Truly at 29 million that Zillow owns. So what I want you guys to understand is the consumer is using their resources. We can't like put up a brick wall. We can't build something now and say, nope, We're going to keep everybody away. The consumer is there. So one of the terms that you used there, Leigh, was a zestimate. And what I've always told folks is really simple. A zestimate is the biggest, widest opportunity for you to show that you know what you're talking about, that the seller could have. I mean, they are literally putting the ball on tee and saying, hit it out of the park. Yep. When they come to you and they bring up a zestimate, rather than banging your head on the desk and going, oh, the zestimate thing again, you should be looking at that as, oh, I get to show you I know what I'm talking about. And then you can bring your CMA, you can bring your market expertise, you can explain to them that you already looked at their estimate, why it is or isn't correct. And then the seller at that point in most markets is going to be sold because you came to them knowing what you were doing. You came prepared to the appointment, and just understand the likelihood that the seller wants to look at Zillow or see their home on Zillow is likely. Stop fighting it, start playing it. It is what it is. And then when it switches, when consumer sentiment goes to some other site, you know, whatever it may be in the future, we'll figure that one out when it comes. Any comments on that, Leigh? I was kind of breaking in for you when your internet went out there.
Well, so all realtors need to go to Zillow and play around a little bit, because a lot of realtors get angry at that website, but they haven't even investigated why consumers go there. They go there because it's fast and easy and intuitive. And frankly, Zillow gives them the information they need when they're gathering data points, because y'all don't answer your phone and call people back. No wonder consumers don't call realtors. We suck at answering the phone. So they go to a website to avoid talking to us as much as possible. And so go there and get comfortable with it. The second thing you better be aware of is that Zillow will give them that number for the house primarily based on dollars per square foot. As a realtor, hear me now. You do not price a house per square foot. That is a plague on our industry right now. Realtors aren't comfortable pricing houses. They don't know how to do adjustments. Take classes. Don't work for a broker that can't show you how to price a house, because the reason that website has taken over their mind space is because a lot of y'all have gotten lazy and done the same thing. You're like, well, this neighborhood goes for $100 a foot and your house has 3,000 feet. So Shazam, there's your price. And that is not how pricing works. And so we have to be better at getting educated. And it's not just getting your license out of the gate. It's all the ongoing education. I take classes all the time because things move and I don't know everything. So I've got to keep adding to my toolkit, because like Chris said, the consumer is begging you to show value and they show you that as estimate. They don't know why it's incorrect until you explain to them.
Oh, there's no question. And yeah, listen, the biggest thing is if you know more than the consumer, you continue to educate yourself, you stay ahead of the game, you play the game and understand it as it is rather than wishing it was something different. That's how you succeed in any industry, but especially this one, because so many of your colleagues, non-office hours viewers, people that don't listen and train under people like Leigh Brown, they're over there with their heads in the sand while you're figuring it out and playing the game, right? I mean, just look at the origins of Zillow from the get-go. It would not be what it is if we just let consumers view real estate info on their smartphones without getting in the way. Had we just done that, I mean, all of us were buried in our cell phones. On my way here, I thought I was going to get run over on the road because 3 times, I live in downtown New Orleans, 3 times I looked over and people were on their phones while they were driving. We all use Uber. We use Uber Eats. We all are in these phones all day long. But then when it comes to real estate, it's like, whoa, wait a minute. That's my world. It's got to be different. Well, it's
right.
not
So
different.
we're in an on-demand society. How many of y'all binge watch stuff on Netflix or Hulu? I mean, my family likes the Goldbergs, as evidenced by my fancy mug here, because Beverly Goldberg is my role model. And that comes on Wednesday evenings on ABC. But do we watch it on Wednesday evenings? No, we watch it when we feel like it. And so we've all gotten that way in our personal lives, but you don't want your real estate to be like that. And I get it. 24/7 life is unhealthy and unwise. And as realtors, we've lived a 24/7 life for so long that you avoid this when it comes to work, but you'll play words with friends all day long and you will Instagram and Snapchat and fiddle around, but consumer calls and you're like, ugh, I don't want to talk to anybody. Well, that's where Zillow filled a gap. And realtors still don't get that this is your single most valuable tool as a practicing real estate professional. It is to answer this phone with your first name and last name and company affiliation. Y'all don't stop answering this phone. Hello, it's going to kill me. But you told the consumer that they didn't matter, and so they went somewhere where they felt they did matter. Now, part of the reason the gap happened is not just realtors being reticent to talk to people. It's also because of this fight over the data. Big data is everywhere. Let's look at these hearings on Capitol Hill. A lot of it's about data. Were you listening to any of the Senate testimony today? Because I was when I was in the car when one certain senator asked a question and wouldn't let the wonderful decorated military answer her because she's hateful like that. But I'm not going to get on that political soapbox because I can't stand that woman. But anyway, they're talking about the data collection and the incidental collection and all these things associated with terrorists. It's not just politics that matters in y'all. It matters in real estate. So all of our data is being collected and it's out there because the public wants it and they feel like they have the right to it. You know, just look at FOIA. They got Freedom of Information Act, but realtors wanted to hold it back in these books that were in there when I first got in the business. And you knew people don't understand, man. The book rocked. It was a binder and you had the listings in the book and it got updated every so often. And that's what you had. There was no computer, no setting the filters and searching. It wasn't easy or intuitive because we controlled it. We didn't like, as a people, losing control. And then you had to ask all these associations to work together. And they are so many different sizes. And so look at the size of Metropolitan Association that you're in. It's very large. You move out in the parishes a little bit, you've got some tiny associations. Well, they didn't want to share data because that meant they might lose members to one another. And so we're fighting over data. Zillow came in and scraped it and said, y'all are over here fussing in the back seat. It's no different than being the parent driving down the road. Zillow became the dad driving down the road, and we, the realtors and associations, were the children fighting in the back seat.
Now, I think that's a really good point. And listen, there's something wrong with that. If I had grown up in the age of MLS books, which I only remember seeing on the counter in my dad's office and being like, is that the phone book? What is in there exactly? But I get it. All of a sudden now you're wondering, wait, they don't have to go to me in order to see what's on the marketplace? Well, wait, what is my value proposition here? So put up barriers, put up barriers, put up barriers. Well, we've got to understand that that is over. And like you said, big data, listen, the MLS data, the listings, that all that information, people are going to get it. So what I'm talking about is little Annie agent, you know, somebody that is either new to the business or you're even a successful local agent. Stop worrying about what Zillow is or isn't doing, or Open Door, what they aren't doing. Wonder what it's doing for your business. Adjust, adapt, stay on top of it. Because I mean, a couple of things like, Leigh, number one, the statistics still show that most people, 50% or some odd of their business comes from their sphere of influence. Zillow.
Okay, so now let's talk about sphere of influence quick, because your newer realtors might not understand what that is. Because if they talk to these old guard realtors, the old guard was taught that your sphere of influence is everybody you ever met. You gather up their name and email address, if you're very fancy, and the phone number, and you stick them in your database, and that's a database. That's not your sphere of influence. Your sphere of influence, as a human being, we can only manage at most 100 to 125 relationships well, all right? So let's just say realtors are advanced and we can manage 150 relationships. These are the people that speak to you at the grocery store. You are not influencing somebody if you run into them in the produce section and they won't speak to you. That doesn't count. And so if you think about this, those 150 people that you know and with whom you have relationship, if you're educated and providing value and you're not dreadful to be around, you're the one they want to call with questions once they've spotted something on Zillow. But you have to let go of the fact that they're going to go find it on their own and bring you their questions. So I'll use one of my buyers as an example. I run with her. She's one of my very good friends, and she's hunting for a property. She found it online, but what she needed was not available through websites. And so she came to me by text because she's a millennial. And so we communicated, and I'm getting her the information she needs. She wants responses quickly. But am I going to fight her over where she found the house? No, because I really don't care, because what she needs, Zillow can't provide. And until you understand what you provide to that person who's buying and selling, you can't defeat Zillow. So ignore all that. That's the whole thing. It's like I've gotten so much exquisite hate mail in the last week because people say I'm apologizing for Zillow. I'm not. You have to understand, it doesn't matter to my business. And people say that they're going to steal everything. They can't steal my personal relationships as long as I've nurtured them. Now, if I let my relationships go, I have no one to blame but myself. Now, I'll also point out on that front, when you're thinking about what are people going to contact you for, you need to know the school zones. You need to know the tax implications. You need to know where road changes are happening. Those legislative things that Chris and I were talking about at the very beginning, you've got to be up to speed on that, because you talk about something that a third-party website, no matter what it is, it could be any cool, disruptive thing invented by a 20-year-old in a hoodie. They can't understand the pros and cons and implications of local regulation issues, state issues, federal issues. And as realtors, we bring that full perspective in to help sellers know, is it a good time to sell? To help buyers know, is it a good time to buy? So look at the things that it can't replicate and then just let go. You got to let go of that little stuff. But you have to be committed to this industry. You cannot do this part-time. This is not a hobby. This is not a game. And so Zillow's moves and these new companies coming in, will it put out the part-timers? I sure to God hope so. I sure to God hope it puts out the hobbyists who aren't fully committed to this business, because this matters. It really matters to the people you're helping.
No, 100%. I mean, I think that we get caught up in transaction numbers. We get caught up in sales data. And sometimes we really do forget that for most people, this is, if not the biggest financial transaction, amongst the biggest and most important things they will ever do. And they are trusting you with that. I think you made a couple of points I want to double back on real quick. Number one, the question I ask all the time, Leigh, is I ask people, what makes you an expert? And it's a challenging question, because the answer is not, I have a real estate license. And the answer is not, I've had a real estate license for 10 years. The answer is not, I've had a license for 20 years. What makes you an expert is that when you walk in there and interact with the consumer, that you actually have a higher level of knowledge, understanding, and preparation than they do. And so if you haven't looked at the Zestimate before you walk in, knowing that 70% of the web traffic is going to have seen that, you're just not, paying attention. So though being an expert, I think is, you've really touched on that, is continuing to train. Because look, I own and operate a real estate school. And listen, the initial licensing education, we can bellyache on what the laws say or what's on the test or what you're required to take in class. All of that's handed down to me by law. And none of that is designed to make sure you're effective. It's make sure and designed to protect the public. So let's make sure we understand the difference between those two things. And I'm a guy that made his name as the real estate exam prep dude. And I'm telling you that is the beginning of the learning experience, not the end. And I think Leigh has made an excellent point. So I want to go back to something. And I heard you say this the other day, that you were talking about people that were wanting a Nordstrom price with a Walmart level of service. And
now you know why I got hate mail.
I love the way you use that analogy.
That's why I got all the hate mail, by the way.
Oh, but good. Well, bring it on. I like it.
I have for years been disturbed by the way compensation works in our industry. It's very outdated and broken, and I don't know the solution. So I want to lead with the fact that I don't know the best solution, because what we have right now is broken, because our states require a license to hang under a broker. Especially if you're new, you are not cut loose on your own. You have a supervising broker. However, we're in an environment where every single person with a license wants the highest split possible. You want to keep all the commission dollars that come in from that transaction. And I get it. You feel like it's yours, but the broker has to keep the doors open, overhead, supervision, expertise, training, whatever it is that they offer. So the brokers money is diminished. They don't have the money to invest in their agents like they used to. Agents are being paid thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, y'all. I think we forget how much money that comes through a transaction to us in the form of that commission check. And you love to tell the seller, in fact, it's that old training technique, which makes my stomach hurt. I've never done it and would never, where they lay out X number of dollar bills in front of the consumer, and then you wipe out half and say that's the co-broke fee, and then you wipe out half more and say that's the broker fee. So here's all I'm left with. I mean, I get it. You want to show that seller why you're not really making all the thousands of dollars, but could we be any tackier about how we convey value to the consumer? I don't want the consumer to pay me because they feel sorry for me. I want them to pay me because I have provided a value and provided a service that was worthy of what they're willing to pay. So if you see that training technique, just know that Leigh Brown does not approve of that. So anyway, we've taken these new agents, and so y'all got your license, and then you stumble across a seller, all right? And you go to list the house because you want to get paid, and you're excited, and you're going to tell them that they're your only client, so you're going to work real hard because you don't have anybody else taking up your time, because that's, again, classic real estate sales training, which makes me want to gag. It's just so dreadful. But you go in and they give you the listing. Now, maybe they feel sorry for you, or you're cute, or they're just stupid, whatever. They give you the listing. And if it's in a certain area and certain price point right now, you can sell just about anything as long as it's not disgusting. All right. We know that. And so you stick your company sign in the yard. You maybe took some photos with your cell phone because you say you can't afford professional photography, which is a lie. And so you took these terrible pictures with your thumb over the lens and then turned it in. You got multiple offers because anybody could sell that house right now. Well, you then got paid all this money and you think you're brilliant. I hear you. You think you're awesome. You're not awesome yet. You got lucky, and you better have a broker that's really giving you good advice on how to handle multiple offers without hurting the home seller, because it's not the easiest thing in the world. And so you're being paid all this money, but what did the consumer pay you for? Did you really provide a value added service? Now, some of y'all, I know that you do, so don't everybody get mad at the same time. But a lot of y'all need to have some really good introspective conversation with yourself about what exactly you're doing for the money. Because if you're not investing in photography, you're not maximizing the experience for the online buyer, who is your best purchaser of that listing, who may bring you more money. And if you're not investing in marketing, do you know how to write up a listing description in a way that the consumer wants to read? If you don't, take some classes on marketing. It doesn't have to be real estate related, but just take something that tells that person you're going above and beyond. Talk to them about your relationship with your broker. If you're a new person who's found a broker who is going to invest in you and put you in their hip pocket and train you and mentor you, you brag about that to that homeowner and say, I know I'm new and clueless. I admit it, but I've got somebody who's got my back and thereby has your back. And they've got X years of experience and X number of hours of education, and they know what they're doing. That's a value to the consumer that says, yes, I've hired this person, but I'm getting two for her. Think about that, because what does Walmart give us? They give us everything. None of it's great. All of it's relatively serviceable. And I feel like that's the real estate experience a lot of homeowners get right now, because they're not getting a turnkey professional concierge service. They've got realtors they can't reach because the realtor won't answer the phone. The disclosures aren't loaded on the multiple. The showings are a mess. And there's a lack of communication and a lack of expertise. Yet that home seller paid the same thing for that crap agent that they would have paid to have the tippy-top best agent in the marketplace, because for whatever reason, in a lot of markets, most realtors just magically happen to charge about the same thing, although it does vary from market to market, and every company has its own theory. But no matter which number is being charged, it's thousands and thousands of dollars. So roughly for the same money, they could have a Nordstrom experience or they could have a Walmart experience. As an industry, we have yet to address that, and it drives me crazy. So I look at like my hairdresser, right? I have very expensive hair, as you can see. It's short and it has to be cut all the time, and I color it to hide the gray. And so if I go to my salon, I have the tippy top best colorist. She's board certified, and I pay through the nose for her to do my hair. In that same salon, there is another level below her that's quite good. And there's another level lower that's getting there. And then there's the beginning level. And if you're getting your hair fixed, the amount of expertise that the hairstylist has determines what you pay. And so in my head, there's got to be a way to play that into real estate, but I have not figured it out yet, because as an industry, we haven't addressed the fact that we treat everybody equally, which is what the mainstream media says. Everybody's the same, but everybody's not the same. Some people suck and some people shine. And until we realize that there's a reason some people shine, then we can't help the ones who suck, but the ones people talk about, they talk about the suckage. People don't talk about good, they talk about bad. Long answer to your question.
No, I love it. I mean, there's so many different things that you touched on. I mean, listen, the same person that will spend hours and take hundreds of takes for their online dating profile pic, one pic that people are going to see, will only take one picture of the house that they're being.
That's so true.
It's 1,000% true. And I see it and I go, what are you doing? I mean,
I'm totally putting that in my presentation, just so you know. I'm stealing it. I'll credit you from the stage.
Go ahead. No problem. I mean, it's 100% true. And I think that one of the things that you mentioned there was, that some people suck. Let's talk about the reality of that, which is that there's a lot of people out there that operate one way and expect something else when they're a consumer. And I think we all need to start reverse engineering and start reminding ourselves, why do I do business with the companies that I do business with? Where do I find them? What matters to me? Like all of you guys out there right now, you take Uber. Do you like Uber? Do you enjoy Uber? Well, Uber's founder is a big part of Open Door, which started this whole open offer auction situation, the whole thing.
Right.
So if you really want to boycott, quit using Uber as an example. I mean, these guys are so big and above and beyond where we are. Stop worrying about that stuff and start wondering. I mean, look, so the divide is bigger, Leigh, at least in the marketplaces that we work in down here in the Gulf South. They used to call it the 80-20 rule. It's really becoming the 90-10 rule, because there's so few people that come to classes and training with people like me and you and really raise their level of service. There's so few people that do that actually the ones that do are getting back their investment in time and money tenfold, while the rest
like that. Like they get it back like that. So why is that? Why do realtors think they're so good they can stop taking classes? These conventions and education events, they have empty seats. What the hell? I mean, none of us know everything. If our children didn't show up in class, we would be furious as parents. Instead, we've got adult realtors out there that say, you know what? The state requires 6 hours a year. I'm going to do my 6 hours. Well, my home inspector, he has to do 36 hours. And how about my hairstylist? I think she's got 100 hours. It's insane. And we whine about 6 and 8 hours. Are you for real? It's mind-boggling to me. I get something out of every class I go to, even if the class sucks and the instructor is dreadful. There's something to glean out of that I can use to make the experience different for the people who trust me with this.
1,000%. I mean, listen, I know we are both trainers and educators, but I think a lot of that is, and I don't want to speak for you, but a lot of that for me. So 2008, right around then, when everything tanked and things got crazy, the Big Short, well, that's when I really got into teaching a lot of CE classes live here in our market and around. And what I noticed was, at least from a minimum standpoint, that there's so many people that are worried about just getting that minimum requirement that, first of all, understand that some of the best stuff that you're going to learn, don't even worry if it has CE attached to it. Like the 6 or 8 or 12 hours a year, every other year, that bar should be so low. That should be so far off your radar screen. Because I'm telling you, the things that I've used to grow my business and that have helped me the most, that's not even a consideration. I don't need CE credit. I'm looking to try to grow and try to learn. And just understand that if you don't, your competitors will. It's as simple as that. If you're wondering how they get that listing and I didn't, well, they may have taken a class. They may have done something. They may have had a presentation that you didn't. And I think there's a whole lot of that going on, and the separation's getting wider. The people that you're seeing in the audience, I think, are going to continue to rise, and the people that don't feel like showing up, those empty chairs, are going to continue to drop. And it's nothing more than this knowledge, this self-improvement, this striving to get better. I mean, Leigh, here's another quote that I use all the time. The moment as a realtor that you think you know it all, you immediately become a depreciating asset. Period. End of discussion.
Preach on.
I mean, that's just the way it is, because you know what? Like today, Facebook changed something, Instagram changed something. There was a tweak over there. There's something that's different over here. You're never going to stop learning. So what do you
can't?
No, it's crazy. It's crazy.
So stupid. I mean, I really don't understand. I mean, we're in an industry full of the smartest people, and I'm trying to move because there's a guy in the backyard who's getting out his weed trimmer. So I'm moving away from that.
Did you sell him that weed trimmer?
Do what?
Did you sell him that weed trimmer? Was that part of the heavy equipment?
Yeah. I don't know if I didn't sell in this area. I lived in Iowa and in Texas when I was selling chainsaws, weed trimmers, and lawnmowers. But anyway, you think about these classes that we're talking about in these educational events. Those are the realtors who are looking to do an entirely different experience for themselves and for their clients. And you look at that. I can go to a conference or an event and I can mastermind with other top producers, and it almost doesn't matter who the speaker is on stage. I'm finding other professionals who are willing to share. And it's one of the best things about our industry. We've got this entrepreneurial mindset that loves to share and loves to grow and likes to show off, frankly. So if you've got some idea that worked, you'd love to be on a panel or on a stage and tell others how awesome you are. And then because realtors like to one-up each other, they'll say, oh, well, that sounds awesome, but have you tried my great idea? And the third guy says, hey, have you tried my great idea? And all of a sudden, you start to look at real estate through a different set of glasses, and that's when it changes. It won't change you by yourself in your home market with your home broker and in your bullpen. It changes when you stretch outside of that and find out that other people's ideas are amazing, and you might tweak it to fit your market and to fit the Cajun personalities in the parishes. But that's okay, because the best in every market are stretching. And the ones who don't stretch, they're keyboard warriors. They go to social media and complain. And I would remind you too, if you decide you need to complain about realtors and real estate, social media is not exactly the best place to do it, because your sphere of influence, your friends and family, they're watching you. And if they think you're just that unhappy about it, they might want to call a realtor who's got a smile on their face and who is interested in providing a level of service. And so you got to turn off that negative to an extent. And I get it. You feel like I'm telling you to ignore a threat that's out there. Yes. And I hear you saying that I'm telling you to ignore it. But what else are you going to do? Are you going to put on sackcloth and cover yourself in ashes? Or are you going to put a smile on your face and put a professional dress on and go out and talk to people? Because that's what our business is. Now, granted, I'm wearing a t-shirt right now, but it's 8 o'clock at home. Y'all don't usually see me talk real estate in casual clothes because I have a real beef with the lowered level of professionalism. We've got low levels of education. We've got realtors who go out to show property in tore up jeans and leggings, and it's killing us slowly. But it's in the way that you educate yourself, which leads to the way that you present yourself. And if you are educated, you'll have confidence. And when you go talk to somebody who needs your guidance, they need you to be confident in what you're telling them. And if you're not confident, bring a broker with you. The best brokers are glad to go with you. And I promise y'all, after about 6 months and a whole slew of appointments, you will have a really good grasp on things. It's not a hard business to learn if you dive in and learn it. So you're going to carry yourself with confidence. And we all know, because your grandma told you, you dressed up to go to church. Why? Because you were presenting the best self before God. And it's the same thing with your clients. Put your best self before your clients. When you dress professionally, you will feel more confident. When you feel more confident, you present your information differently, and then that client gets it. They get why realtors exist. And then if you are really bold, you give them permission to go on these sites, because I love to ask my people, hey, which one do y'all use? And find out what they like, because it helps me to know my clients better so that I can then serve them better, because you're in a service industry. You are not doing anything that's financial. I know y'all like to think you're consultants and stuff. You're not. You're in a service industry. You're providing a service to people. Hopefully what you're providing is worth you being paid for it, and it's worth them telling other people why you were worthwhile. No different than how you feel when you go to a great store. You tell people about it. And if you have a bad experience, you tell people about that too. So this is not about you needing to sell 300 houses a year to be tops in your market. This is about you being tops with the client you're talking to today, to help them understand that they matter, and that if you are inexperienced in real estate, that you'll be honest about that, but that you will have resources at the ready to provide them something different than they expect, because they don't expect very much from us, frankly. So you can raise that bar pretty quickly on your own.
Oh, yeah, I agree 1,000%. The bar is about this high, so you can look like a superstar by going up to this level.
Returning a phone call. Hey, woo, you're awesome.
You answered the phone. Or I call it the millennial coin flip game, where if you call a millennial on the phone, I'm a millennial, so I'm throwing myself under the bus. It's 50-50 whether the voicemail is even set up. Like whether it's anything other than the standard message. The person you were trying to reach at XYZ number is not available.
And realtors who have that as their voicemail, I don't care how old you are. It's okay if the client has that, but as a realtor, you better go fix your voicemail right now, even if you never intend to answer the phone, because you are not putting forth a professional image if your voicemail says, the voicemail you have reached has not been set up. That's crazy. Or my second favorite, which is the voicemail you've reached is full. You've got to empty the voicemails if you're not going to listen to them. But y'all, you got to take it up a notch, especially you millennials. You young people, if y'all will do some of these old school things like answering the phone, setting up your voicemail, you will be crazy head and shoulders above some of your competition, because I know several wonderful millennial realtors, and they use their millennialness as an excuse. They like to say, well, I don't answer the phone because I'm a millennial. I don't do business cards because I'm a millennial. All right, so what you're saying then is you don't really want to work with any other generation. I'd like to work with all generations, so I try to be available in different ways. I even try to learn Snapchat, although I do not get it, and I'm pretty sure that's where my age is kicking in. I don't get Snapchat, but you young people, y'all can have those clients. But look at that as your opportunity to be different. And when you're different, the Zillows don't matter. When you're the same as everybody else, then you're done.
I agree 100%. So real quick, Leigh, I think this is a good point for us to take a pause and remind those that might be coming in, because I think we're just realizing that Facebook was sort of not working, and now it is really working. So
do you have any questions?
Yeah, that's what I was going to get to. A couple of questions and comments. So real quick, as I think Facebook is filtering in even more now. So sorry for the technical difficulties. Those of you that couldn't find us on YouTube, the Facebook is now working. I am here with the lovely Leigh Brown, and we are talking all things Zillow and really why it doesn't matter for your business. Because for those of you that may not know, Zillow came out with the instant offers program. The real estate internet has just blown up. I mean, just Google it. I mean, there's articles, there's things going crazy. Yeah. And look, full disclosure, I don't work for Zillow. I don't think Leigh works for Zillow. We are industry practitioners, and we want you guys to understand the best possible way to succeed and to grow your business and to stop worrying about Zillow. It's not killing your business. You are. And so what we really want to get to, guys, is kind of rehash a little bit of what we've talked about, and then Q&A. Since we got Facebook now rolling in along with YouTube, if you've got a question, there's a couple of ways you can ask it. Number one, Twitter is my favorite. Use the hashtag office hours. Ask either me and Leigh or both of us your question about something Zillow related or really anything real estate related, right? I mean, Leigh will take it on.
Absolutely.
If you're on the Facebook event page, post your question there. And then if you're in the comments, either on YouTube or Facebook, post your question there and we'll be good. So we still got Facebook sound problems. All right. We still got Facebook sound problems. Don't know what the deal is.
Well, that's all right. I'm sure it's recorded so they can watch the recording, I think.
Correct. Who knows what the technical deal is there. But okay, so real quick, one of the things that we've discussed and that I want to make sure that everybody understands is that the real gap and what everybody's forgetting is they're getting their eye off the ball. It's just about raising the bar. It's about professionalism, right? It's about actually being an expert. It's about knowing what you're doing when you walk out there and that you're dealing with your customers and your clients. You know, it's acting as if the agent that you would want to hire, projecting that to the marketplace. All of those wonderful things are part of what we're talking about here. And guys, I mean, you can be a top agent in your marketplace with a little bit of effort, a whole lot of enthusiasm, and a little bit of training above and beyond just the basic bar to get your license and to keep your license. I think that's incredibly important. Leigh, do you want to add anything to that before we get to some questions?
Oh, I was just going to do hashtag preach because all that's true.
There you go. Twitter is my favorite place. Do we still having sound problems?
Here's why Twitter's my favorite, because I went to check our hashtag and it says that one of Putin's quotes, "I am not a woman, so I don't have bad days." Well, you know, there's just so much gold on Twitter, so much gold. And if you're not watching the parody account for Sean Spicer, it's the funniest thing on Twitter. Have you seen it, Sean Spicier?
Oh, it is hilarious.
Oh my gosh, that's my I have to check that every day just to see who he's ticking off. It's hilarious. I'd love to know who.
That's the sunny side of the internet. That's the part you got to go to when you need therapy, when you need a little assistance, when you know Zillow's got you down. That's where you need to go. That's the part that's going to make you feel happy, I think.
Yeah, you'll immediately feel better about yourself when you see how angry these people are on Twitter, typing in all caps.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, come on. All caps means you're serious, right?
Exactly. Or it means you're old. Also, like an AOL address.
Kids. Well, here's something that actually that you just brought up, and while I think I'm going to be able to fix the audio here. Actually, I'm just going to work this, and then do this, and then do this.
I'm gonna work it. That was pretty.
Pushing a couple of buttons here that I'm hoping are going to fix this. But in the meantime, a real quick story for you, Leigh, that I think you'll enjoy. So, Office Hours, the name of this podcast, just before a certain Spencer Raskoff started his podcast that he calls Office Hours for some reason. I just want the whole world to know that mine was out there 4 to 6 months ahead of his. And so if anybody should be ticked off at Zillow, it's me, because he copied the name of my podcast. So actually, you know, I'm the one that should have the beef here. None of you guys. It's all about me.
You better learn how to trademark your stuff. I had to trademark missionary style real estate because some other speakers were out there using it on the circuit, and I shut that mess down. I trademarked it. So now if you say missionary style real estate, it's got the little TM on it.
Oh, I like that. Very nice.
Because, you know, that is the key to success. And so anybody who's watching this that doesn't know me needs to understand that the way you succeed in real estate is by practicing missionary style real estate. And if you don't know what that is, that's belly to belly, nose to nose, toes to toes. Some things don't change in our business.
Yep. No, I love the phrase, by the way, because you know that gets people's attention.
See if they're paying attention over there on Facebook Live.
What's that? Yeah. Well, you know, I just pulled it off because for some reason the sound wasn't working, but our YouTube is working. I'm going to put it up on Facebook Live as soon as we're finished here. But we do have some viewers on YouTube, and we've got some folks here. So for those of you that are hanging out and actually followed the directions in the email, hanging out with me and Leigh Brown here, make sure that you bring us your questions. Do you have any from the comments that I can't see? I'm looking at a couple of things from Twitter.
While she's looking at that, I want to share with y'all. So we talked about pricing a little bit ago and how realtors are very nervous because they don't know how to price houses anymore. They've gotten into this per square foot thing. So I just got an inquiry from my website, and it said this house that they're inquiring about was well below $90,000 in 2014. What upgrades have been made to make it be worth $107,900 now? So I look at that, and that's an opportunity to explain to that person, it's about supply and demand because the market has moved since 2014. But as a realtor, are you prepared to explain supply and demand? Many realtors aren't. They just say, well, it's a hot market, but they don't understand the actual background that leads us to things being hotter, which is too many pent-up buyers who should have bought during the recession and didn't. Now they're finally buying and aging into it, and not enough houses for sale because our sellers have nowhere to go. So explaining supply and demand to this guy's going to help, but then he wants to know what makes it worth that price. So I can't just tell him it's because the other houses nearby all sold for $90 a foot. That is not how you price a house. If that's how you price a house, you're working at a trailer park, and all of those houses could in theory be priced per square foot, but have you ever been to a mobile home lot? Because if you haven't, go out to a mobile home lot. Every house has a different price because every house has different upgrades. Some are repo trailers that came back in when they did not pay for it. They're the same as the new model on the lot. The repo sells for less, even though their square footage is the same. So this is an analogy they can't use in California because they don't understand our people, but you speak my language. So help somebody understand that's why these numbers from websites aren't necessarily accurate. It's what value you provide. And then when I respond back to this buyer, because I've already forwarded him to somebody in my office who can call him now because I'm talking to y'all, the first thing we'll say is, when can we sit down with you and help you understand how pricing works so that as you're looking online, you will know where the numbers come from? Our job is not to hold the information here. It is to help the consumer understand how it works so that they can look on their own and then come to us when they need expertise, because that's what we're here for, is expertise.
No question about it. I couldn't have said it better myself. I don't even want to try to add to that. I want to make sure that people understand something that I was listening just the other day. Well, two things. Number one, I want to give our audience one more statistic and to understand, since we're talking about Zillow, and that is that 70% or more, slightly over 70% of Zillow's revenue comes from real estate agents. That's a
absolutely
fact. So all of you people that think that Zillow is trying to put you out of business, so what? They're trying to cut off 70% of their revenue stream?
No,
I don't think the
money.
stockholders would like that very much. Number one.
Well, but let's call it what it is. The reason realtors invest in Zillow is because they're inherently lazy, and they're hoping that by dropping a few $1,000s a month, they can have some commissions come in from some transactions from some random strangers. And I know I make people mad when I say that, but honestly, if you think about the people you know and the relationships you have, and if you're visible in your community, you don't have to buy leads off of websites like Zillow. The only reason you do it is because you're too lazy to pick up the phone and you'd rather have an email come in so you can swoop in and not have to have these difficult conversations and dialogue with people because you're allergic to relationships now. All of us want a relationship through here. This is not relationship. It's a tool, and you act like this is the be-all, end-all. And I'll tell you, too, some of these realtors that are really mad are the ones who have been spending money with Zillow. They feel like Zillow's coming after them. They're not. Zillow's going to charge for this at some point, and then that's going to be another stream of revenue for them. And these realtors, because they're lazy, will keep signing up for it because they're panicking instead of realizing that if they pick up the phone and call somebody, they wouldn't have to go to Zillow to get a number for their house.
Yeah, how about that? Actually, the first question is going to come from me because I want to ask you this, because I think a big issue is the majority of the leads and the traffic and all of that that's going on in any of these sites, whether it's Zillow or Trulia or Realtor.com for that matter, who also is selling leads and lives on and dies on traffic and real estate agents. That's all buyer traffic, right? People looking at houses. What's your opinion on the state of the industry today where we're all fighting over all these buyers? I think that more so than ever, if you can get more listings and concentrate on sellers, that's what this real flip is for Zillow. I think a lot of people are missing. This is them trying to find a way to funnel off seller leads, because that's kind of the precious territory out there where you can really have an advantage as an agent. What do you think about that, Leigh?
Well, and nobody's cracked that nut really of how do you generate listing leads from the internet, because in general, buyers don't understand buyer agency. And I blame us as realtors. We haven't explained it well. They don't know what we do or for whom. So they just shop on the internet. We pick them up, and we can look at the statistics and know that they generally use, and I think it's like 83% use the first realtor with whom they speak. They're not asking questions. They're not interviewing you. They're just letting you unlock the door. You are a super key to them. Now, maybe you show some value later, but this is, again, where our system is, as an industry, is broken because the buyers think you're free but you're being paid by the seller. Why is the seller paying you to work for the buyer against them? That's something that concerns me greatly. And I'm studying that in other countries because it doesn't work that way everywhere. But anyway, the sellers are different. Sellers don't just pick the first realtor they call. They're asking questions. They're interviewing you. They're looking at marketing plans. And this is not all sellers, but in general, there's more interviewing on that side. And so if they want somebody to interview, they don't go to cold websites and start calling people unless they don't have any other option. They ask friends and family, hey, who did y'all use? Who did you like? Good and bad and ugly. So there's way more word of mouth there, which is hard to capture online. However, what's interesting is that if you think about what's happened in your market, and we have the same thing, our buyers have something they need to sell. And they're afraid to buy something because they got to make the dominoes line up. And they're afraid to sell because there might not be anything to buy. So they find the purchase first, and then the house needs to go away. Is Zillow going to provide them a more seamless situation than the realtor can? Because we don't know how to gauge this timing, and Zillow's making it very easy. So Zillow's possibly capturing a potential seller there by virtue of making that domino process manageable because we haven't talked about it. So I don't think Zillow's even scratched the surface for what they're going to find as new revenue streams from realtors, but the best realtors, again, not going to stress out about it because you're on the phone with people and they know that you're there and that you are a resource. You cannot just be putting a house in the MLS. I can't stress it enough. You have to be a resource.
Mm-hmm.
And some of these top premier agents, I talked to an agent, he wanted to join my office. Dude, he's spending $375,000 a year on Zillow leads.
Whoa.
Right, you get that number? $375,000. That's his outgoing expense. And I looked at his sales. If he's making any money, it's in the low 5 figures. So he's spending to make, but he's not keeping anything because the expenses are high. Because we all know that the pipeline takes time to mature. So you may have 1,000 opportunities come through. They're not all ready right now. Well, how are you going to effectively follow up with 1,000 people? So you can't. You cherry pick off the bottoms. And when you're cherry picking that against your expenses, it's hard to really show a ROI. And I'm totally cracking up over these people on some of these posts right now. You've seen and they're like, oh, my return on Zillow is 20 times my investment. Like, I'd love to see a spreadsheet, but I'm not going to judge because some people I'm sure are making a great return. I would just say those are the same people that would make a great return whether they use Zillow or not, because they know how to convert and follow up and educate and take care of their clients. They're not just cherry picking. I think there's more agents that are buying leads and don't know what to do with them.
Absolutely. I think there's no question. So at this point in the program, we've got a couple of questions. I've got a couple that have been emailed to me. I love this transition. If we got just a couple of more minutes, why don't we give our audience that's hung in there with us, give them some tangible, hardcore takeaway tips that they can use from all the stuff we're talking about. And I think the first one that I would like to mention that you just talked about that I obsess over with my crowd is tracking. Like every single time you get an appointment, you get a client, you close a deal, you need to know, where did they come from? How much did you have to spend to acquire them? And if you're wondering, this is what always happens, is paralysis by analysis. So then what do they think? I need a fancy CRM. So then their mind explodes because they Google real estate CRM and they're like, whoosh, right? And then it's all of these things. If you have a Gmail account, open up a Google sheet, right? It's free. And start tracking. I got an appointment with a seller. Where'd they come from? Oh, it was mama. Good. That cost me $0. I got a buyer lead. Where did it come from? Wait
a minute. You also have to have a column on there, or did I thank mama? So mama sent me somebody. Did I send her a thank you note? Because if you put all of these things in that basic Google sheet, you can not only see that it was an opportunity that came from somebody you know who the opportunity came from, and that you thanked them. And so if somebody says, my friend told me to call you, they did not answer your question, that's when you say, oh, well, which friend was it, so I can send them a prize. And I always say I'm going to send them a prize. I get the name that way. If I say I'm going to send them a thank you, nobody will give you the name. So make sure you tell them you're giving them a prize. There's a tangible tip. So track those things. And I'll also tell you, because I keep all of my spreadsheet is actually in numbers, because I'm a Mac person, but numbers came with the computer, so that's what I use. And if I'm tracking categories, one of the best pieces of advice I can give, especially if you're a newer realtor, you haven't screwed up yet. The rest of us that have been in for a long time, there's only so much fixing that can be done on our bad mistakes. If you have somebody who buys a home from you in 2017, a lot of realtors have as their category buyer or maybe past client. That person to me would be buyer 2017. Now, let's say that they sold a home too. They're also seller 2017. And the reason I do that is so I can look at a name and I know what year immediately they bought or sold with me. The other thing that happens is, let's just say I wanted to call the people who bought homes from me in 2010 and 2011. And why would I want to call them? Because they bought when the market was really low and they are the most likely to have equity and be thinking about selling. Well, now I can quickly sort through to find them so I can call just those people and not call my whole list. It's no different than thinking about when you go out hunting. You don't go really hunting with a shotgun and expect to take down a deer. You need a rifle for that because you need to have the aim and the power and the focus to get the big game. You want squirrels, that's fine. That's what your shotgun is for, and rabbit, because you can get shot in the rabbit and it still cooks up fine. You don't want shot in a deer, that's bad. So think about that. Get very categorized. And those of y'all that are new, you do 4 deals this year. That's awesome. You did some business and hopefully your broker had your back. It's not an excuse to not be organized, because what'll happen is if you're educating yourself, getting mentored, going to conventions and stretching yourself, your business will grow. You'll get to year 5 and now you want to call year 1. And because you're a realtor, you're ADD and you have no memory left, you won't have the foggiest idea which people are which. So you can get super organized right now. And the other thing I'll tell you is in that tracking piece, on my spreadsheet, there's a column for lender, a column for inspector, a column for various other vendors. And that way I know which of the trusted people in my network are winning the pieces of business. So if I want to do a mailing and I'm going to follow all the RESPA guidelines, but my lender can invest with me, I will have a much more successful time having him invest with me to provide a benefit to our mutual clients if I can say, hey, I've sent you 28 closed transactions this year alone. Will you invest $400 with me? He'll say yes. When you tell people, I sent you all some business, then that's not a reason for them to invest back in you. So track all of those pieces, and it will also help you see where you have gaps. So if you have recommended a lender 18 times and nobody used him, you need to change lenders, because that lender can't close the deal, and you've got to have a trusted financial partner to really be a successful realtor.
No question. I mean, we know our clients will dump us at the first bad negotiation, even when they didn't listen to us, even though when they did nothing we said and then they lose the property, they'll dump us, but we'll keep on that lender or that title company, whoever that has cost us deals, absolutely.
Because we're lazy. Or it's not even lazy, it's passive aggressive. We just don't want to tell somebody they're not working out, and so you don't tell them and you just keep using them. That's passive aggressive.
Control your universe, right? You can control what you can control. That's what we're talking about all night long. So what can you control? I can control my tracking. I can control my statistics. I can control where I refer and who that I prefer and where I'm going to send out my business. Because if I'm an agent, I'm definitely not, going to somebody that's costing me problems. I know there was a lot of shakeout in the mortgage industry out of the dirty 4 letters TRID and all of that stuff. But no question, I think that is awesome advice. So number 1, know where your business is coming from. And then what I would add to that is then look for holes, right? So if you look at the entire year 2016, look at, yes, I need to double or triple down. I'm doing great at church or at my kids' community softball park, or I'm doing great, investing in my sphere of influence. But man, I'm not getting any action from Facebook. I probably need to work on that. Or I'm not getting any action from, my direct listings that are going through my broker portal or whatever the case may be. So track what you are doing, then look for the big holes. And there's no way you can do that without, look, it's a free spreadsheet, right? Every computer comes with it. And Leigh, that's great advice on what columns to have. Be as specific as you can, because then when you go back, you'll know exactly what you got. So let me flip it over to you. I wanted to talk about the tracking. What's a tip you'd like to offer our audience about stop worrying about the things you can't control and controlling what you can control, what's something else tangible you'd like to give them?
Get a worksheet somewhere with daily activity. And you can pull this down from a million different websites, some kind of an activity tracker. As realtors, we are in a very undisciplined profession where the best realtors have made themselves disciplined so that they don't forget these very basic things that matter so much to clients. So if you really want to change your business, get a daily activity tracker and make yourself jot down your phone calls. Because what happens with things like Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter is that you start giving yourself excuses. You say, I worked all day, but you never called anybody. You never took a relationship offline. You just click like and thumbs up all day, and that does not build your business. So if you look at that daily activity record and you got to make 10 phone calls, if you're ticking them off, you're more likely to make them. And if you know that you need to preview, because that's critical, no matter where you are in your real estate life cycle, you've got to stay active previewing. I preview every single week. I go look at new listings when they hit. I go to new home communities. I go to school board meetings and town hall meetings and try to make sure I'm up to speed on things, because I need to be aware of who's in the marketplace and what's going on. So that should be one of the blocks in your daily activity. Are you doing some previewing? And maybe it's not a day you spend. It could be an hour. Go look at 2 houses, drive 2 neighborhoods, go meet a builder. You've got to know this better than anybody else, and you're more likely to get it done if you track it. And then really where it come in handy is if you make a friend. So on Facebook, there's some realtor you like, they're funny, they identify with you. Why don't you get up with them and say, hey, here's an activity record. How about I send you mine, you send me yours? If somebody's looking for you to send it to them and they're looking to have to send theirs to you, you're more likely to do it. So get it done. And then what will happen is you'll build a habit of this. You will read the news on Inman and you'll read what comes across the Realtor Mag blog and you'll see what people are talking about, and you'll look at it as information, but not as what's driving your daily decision making.
Absolutely. Preach on, sister. I mean, listen, she mentioned, look, number one, tracking what you're doing on a daily basis. In other words, when you say you're going to work, especially if you're brand new, you go into you're new. If you're lucky enough to have a workspace or your home office or wherever you are, then what are you going to do for the next 3 hours? Like, what are you doing when you're working? Are you calling people? Are you sending those thank you prizes, as you call them? Are you doing activities that bring you business? Or are you doing stuff that just keeps you busy so you feel like you accomplished something, but you actually just spun around in your chair 3 times and then went home? I think that's incredibly
important. Which is also
important.
why if you put on your professional clothes when you go to the office, because you'll be more likely to get the work done if you look like you're busy in real estate. If you are wearing yoga pants and a t-shirt because you have no appointments, well, what happens if an appointment comes across your plate? You're now not at your best and most confident to do it, so you get in your own way. So if you get up every morning like you have a regular job and put your face on, fix your hair, and put your clothes on, go on to the office, sometimes the work will just find you because you're making yourself available for it. So it's so critical, and you find that good broker relationship, the more you're in the office, the more your opportunities increase. And then you will not be in the office because you're busy, not because you're running errands.
No question. I mean, what's the old saying? Luck is when preparation meets opportunity. You're going to be lucky because you're doing the right stuff, right? And you're prepared. So listen, when you get your real estate license, guys, you just started a business. You need to act that way. You need to understand that what would you do if you started a car repair garage or any other business? Would you just be sitting there twiddling your thumbs, hoping the phone rings? Or would you be hustling out flyers? Would you be putting out ads? Would you be calling dealerships or anybody else that might do business with you? You got to operate the same way. And you've got to understand, especially if there's nothing else going on, then you've got to be proactive and make sure that you're doing the things that are going to fill up your funnel. I don't think there's any better way to say it. So look what we talked about: tracking where your business comes from and track what you're doing every day. I'm an obsessive time blocker, Leigh, and it's something that I talk about all the time. And one of the things that I gained from that is that I make sure I do the most productive or important things in my business first every single day. And then everything else comes after that, right? Whatever that may be at that cycle, at that stage. Listen, towards the end of the year, fourth quarter, we're in CE hell down here in South Louisiana, right? Everybody's scrambling to get their CE. So that's usually always amongst my first priorities at that time. And then maybe writing the courses for the next year, then maybe that'll be my priority. So if you're a real estate agent, make sure the first thing you're doing is not a bunch of just hooey work, right? Liking a bunch of Facebook posts or whatever. What are you doing to actually make sure that people know that you're serious? Have you introduced yourself to your actual sphere of influence? Do they know you sell real estate, or are you a secret agent out there, right? I go to your Facebook profile. It doesn't even say that you sell real estate. So, what do consumers think when they look at you? It's the craziest thing.
And it's also a violation of the real estate commission too. Some of these realtors are out there talking about real estate on their Facebook pages, but you can't see their company affiliation, their license affiliation. So if you're not comfortable with what the social media guidelines are, you need to contact the real estate commission and get compliant, because our industry is only as good as the worst among us. We've got to make sure that we're all abiding by these guidelines. It's to protect that consumer out there who needs to know if you're legit or not. You've got to give them that information.
No question. And listen, I think from a compliance perspective, I just did in office hours, because here in Louisiana, the Real Estate Commission has a severe new enforcement policy, at least down here in advertising, and it's really going to sting, because they're sending fines not only to the salesperson, but a matching fine to the broker, because they're responsible. And so I just did an episode on that. But even just taking it a step back, I think you guys need to understand that, like, maybe somebody told me, oh, Leigh just got her real estate license. I'm like, oh, cool. I'm thinking about buying a house. And I go look at Leigh's Facebook, and it says nothing about real estate or that she works at a real estate firm. Let's take the compliance out of it. I'm going to go, oh, well, I guess she hadn't taken her test yet, or maybe she's not serious, or what. Like, take the 5 minutes to update your Facebook profile and let people know that you're serious. And
get rid of the boob pictures too. For heaven's sakes, if I see one more realtor with their boobs hanging out on Facebook, I'm going to throw up. It's crazy. I mean, this is who we are. I mean, this is the image you're putting forth. So that's for your Match.com profile or our time if you're an older dating individual, but do not put it out there where your clients are going to find it. Unless that's the clients you want, that's a different scenario altogether.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point from a lady to the ladies out there. I think she's making some really good sense. I mean, what you project to the world is what people are going to see. Like, it's all out there. Like this interview, it's going to be out there. It's on YouTube, right? And so hopefully it's going to bring a lot of value to you folks. And what I want you guys to understand, and Leigh, I want to tell you this too. So part of what we're doing here, and I believe that everybody deserves an opportunity to enter this wonderful industry. And so I'm a believer in dreams, and I'm a believer in people taking that leap, but I'm also a believer in telling them the truth. So you won't see people at our school or in our facility when somebody gets their license, then just telling them a bunch of stuff. We're here to support folks from, I want to get into real estate, all the way through to I got my license, to advanced sales, career, business building, training. I believe in all of that stuff. And the reason that I wanted to have Leigh on is because I know she does too. And she's one of the people that I look out to and that I seek when I see that she's speaking. I want to hear what she has to say. Recently, she was the keynote speaker at our local real estate association. It's actually kind of funny because I was going to go talk to her and introduce myself afterwards. She got bum rushed by at least 100 realtors. I didn't even get to see her until she was at the airport. I hit her up on Twitter and said she did a great job, and we developed a relationship through there. But what I want you guys to learn from that is that I didn't give up. Number one, I'm like, oh, no, this isn't my chance. And number two, I got the value. The 7 deadly sins in real estate, I just think is awesome. I love the title, and I love that you've touched on some of those, and it's a lot of truth. I think that's excellent. You're providing a great service to the industry, both with your authenticity, the way you can project those things, and that I think that your heart and your mind are in the right place, because both of us love real estate. I mean, I'm a third generation. I'm not sure if you're first or what have you. I don't want to see
third,
this
baby, third.
There you go. 2 third generations right here. We don't want to see the industry go anywhere. But guys, if we are worried about a computer program taking our place, what we really need to be asking ourselves is, why is it that a computer program can take our place? And if we start thinking in those terms and start raising our own level of professionalism, I think you're going to find that everything this industry, everything in it and that you thought it was, is there, and then more, no doubt. So Leigh, real quick, I think we've taken up a lot of your time, and Facebook did not play along tonight. So a couple of things. Number one, we may have to come back and do something again, because I'm getting a lot of Facebook questions, which is funny because people want to know about Facebook marketing whenever we talk about anything.
I love Facebook Live. Oh, I love it.
Oh, it is the best. It is the best. And so we tried to pull the double. Apparently it didn't work. So I'm going to have some conversations with the techies over here, which is myself. So real quickly, tell everybody how they can reach you, the best place to find you, where they can see the upcoming classes that you're doing and all of that. And then I got a couple of party shots for them and a prize, if you will.
Oh, okay. So I'm all over the social networks. My names are a little bit different in some places just because I was an early adopter and I've had to adapt some of that. But if you look for Leigh Thomas Brown, my maiden name is what sets me apart from the Australian rugby player named Leigh Brown, who still controls Google page 1 because he's very big in Australian rugby. So Leigh Thomas Brown. I'm at Leigh Brown on Twitter, which is where I love to hang out for political and very interesting conversations. So if you're easily offended, then you probably just suck in general. Anyway, we should not be friends because I don't offend easily. And then on Facebook, I'm full of friends, but follow me. The training page is No Fluff Training, and that's where we have all the events listed where you can come see me somewhere. And the best part of coming to see me is you'll meet other amazing realtors in your local market, and you can start to really build a positive network that changes our industry even more for the better, because the realtors are the most caring, loving, sharing group of people I've ever seen. We just have to band together and bring up those that need to be brought up, and that will let the bottom feeders will go away. We'll eliminate them because they won't fit into a club that's full of professional-minded people.
No, I think that's absolutely 100% correct. You guys get out there and interact with Leigh on social. She's hilarious. She keeps it real. She knows what she's doing. You might accidentally learn something. And then I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about her book. And then I've got something special for you guys. Number one, I want you to know, Leigh, that I love your book, Outrageous Authenticity. Yay! I am such a huge fan of not having to turn it on and turn it off. Like, be who you are 100% of the time. Be real. You don't have to worry about who's in the room or who isn't, because people are doing business with you, not this fake person that you don't know when you're supposed to be. Like, am I real estate Chris right now, or am I like regular Chris? Right. And I love the message in that book. It's actually one that I gift quite often, including to those of you that have held on in this show. So I've got several copies of Leigh's book. In fact, I just gave away a copy. I got another shipment coming in. I should just get like subscribe and save on Amazon. So guys, here's the deal. Leigh, why don't we have them go to Twitter, which we love, use the hashtag office hours.
Definitely.
And put a quote from this episode, use that hashtag, and then I'm going to pick the lucky winners, and I'm going to send you a copy of Leigh's book On Me for you, because it's a great book. It's one of my favorites. I think it's a really excellent work. And now I'm jealous because I got to get to work and get something out there, because you might even be working on your next one. I don't even know.
I am. It's being edited right now, and I'm not happy with it right now. So I'm working on it. It'll get there. I like to get things right. It's 7 Deadly Sins of Sales. Hey, so try to turn it into a book. And so what I'll tell you is, if I see something good on Twitter and it's tagged at Leigh Brown with this hashtag for office hours, the best thing that somebody puts out there, I'll send them an autographed copy of the book, but you'd have to tell me your address and stuff. So there you go. I mean, it's totally going to be worth at least $1 one day, at least.
There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, the author herself, I'm going to give away copies, and she's going to give away an autographed copy.
That's right.
On Twitter. Guys, it's free. If you're not on Twitter, go make an account, search out the hashtag, find us. Leigh, any parting shots before we go? We've taken up so much of your time. We are so grateful, and I really appreciate you offering your authentic and real message here, that you really care and that you're really trying to raise the bar.
I do want all your listeners to do one thing. I want them to pick up their phones right now, go to messages, and compose a new message. And you're going to send this to 30644. So 30644. And what you're going to text as your message is realtor. What'll happen is that's going to sign you up for the calls to action that come out from the Realtor Association. This is the easiest way for you, especially if you're a newer realtor, to get involved and active and know what we're worried about and what we're fighting for as realtors. Because when we talk RPAC and you hear Josie make her speech about it, because she's freaking hilarious, and you're thinking about what this means. You have to understand, we're not talking partisan politics right now. We're talking property rights. And that's Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, Independents working together. And one of the things that really matters is these calls to action. You get like 4 or 5 a year. And then we flood our elected officials and say, don't y'all screw this up because this affects our clients. So if you'll do that for me right now, that will be awesome. It's 30644. Text the word realtor there. And then if you get signed up on that and want to know more about how you can get involved in what the realtors are doing that makes us complete realtors and not just MLS and not just transactions, Josie is an amazing resource in the New Orleans Association. I can answer your questions. Chris, are you a major investor yet?
Ooh, she's put me on the spot. I have actually not a major investor. I've sat on the pack. I believe in the pack.
I think it's time for you to step up.
Too much of a young gun here, you know?
Well, as the owner of a real estate school, you're leading these young lives to success. And one of the ways to success is by being politically involved in our advocacy efforts. So major investor status starts at $1,000 a year. That's only $88 a month. You make that on your people who retest. So will you agree to be a major investor this year before the year's out?
Well, I like that sale. She's putting me on the spot live. I love that. I'm going to return fire with this answer. Hold on. I'm going to give you this answer, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. When I was in college, my major was political science. So awesome. I thought my dream job when I was in college was going to be a lobbyist in the real estate industry, hopefully working for NAR. Like that's what I had on my, to-do list. And then some things happen and here we are, right? I've sat as a trustee, Josie and all those folks. I've sat in the war room with them when we've talked about it. And yeah, you know what? Maybe it's time. Josie, if you're out there, I think she's probably going to see this. I'd like to go to the major investor dinner here in Louisiana and talk about joining personally here in Louisiana and becoming a part of that. Because let me explain something to you guys, and what Leigh is out there expressing is that when it comes to laws and politics and those things in real estate, like you got to pay attention to the fine print. When we had, as example, in Louisiana, Leigh, we were able to combat it with our PAC and we were able to shut it down. But there was a discussion in the legislature because Louisiana has just a little bit of a budget problem, if you can imagine that. There was a discussion on taxation of professional services, i.e. real estate commissions. A direct tax, when you already pay taxes, then you tax again. And that would have been a disaster for our industry. And ultimately what would have happened, the consumer would have ended up paying for it like everything else. We squashed it with our influence. We all went up there for Realtor Day at the legislature. We all had the same shirt on. We flooded the chamber. We made sure that all of our state representatives, all of our state senators understood the impact, the reality of what was going to happen if they passed this. And it was over pretty quickly because of the numbers and because of the importance of what we showed and how much we believe in it. So I'm a big fan of that. And I love that. And I think that you got me on the hook, Leigh. I think it's about time. I love to do it. I mean, my dream was to be a lobbyist anyway. So I like talking politics.
Man, we'll hook you up with Jerry G. He's fascinating. But the thing is, too, you said the word flooding. Your state has more flood zone than many states in the country. Mm-hmm. And that flood insurance is up for reauthorization in September. Well, as any of y'all who pay attention know, Congress is slightly distracted by all this other crap that's not even real. So we are working very hard to make sure that the flood insurance reauthorization happens because that affects our existing homeowners, our existing commercial property owners in a huge way. And think about those fixed income people. If they can't pay for their flood insurance, y'all saw what happened after Katrina. And we don't want to have that kind of an impact again. So that's the kind of things that we fight for. So when you invest in the PAC, you got to know part of your money stays in your local area so that you can be involved in municipal elections, which arguably are the most critical things that we deal with. We also make sure part of the money goes to your state level to fight things like this proposed tax on services. And part of the money goes to the national level to make sure that we're looking at the federal issues. So you can really get involved. And even if you're not a political nerd, you have to understand that what we're investing in is the future of our entire profession. And in these elected officials' seats, they're just looking for a money grab. Our job is to stop that and protect the people who trust us with their properties.
100%, 100%, guys. Preach on. I mean, she could not be more right and more correct. I mean, listen, we opened the show kind of joking around a little bit about voting. And I talked about how one of the tricks that at least we see in Louisiana is they'll have a special election in the middle of the heat of summer, and there's only one thing on the ballot, and it's a millage increase. And they'll say it's temporary. Well, there's nothing temporary.
Nothing's temporary.
You know, when we're thinking about real estate, well, guess what? If you see the word millage, that's property tax. You need to get out there, educate yourself, and likely vote that thing down before the taxes on real estate go up, which affects everything else. I couldn't agree more. I think that I follow it closely. I mean, listen, when the Big Short movie came out, that was like the first movie finally where they had a movie about a book I read. Because I don't read all this other nonsense. I'm a financial nerd. I read The Big Short because Michael Lewis, you know, is from New Orleans. I read that thing and I went, oh, I wish that I'd have figured that out. Because I got days about how I should have figured that out being a mortgage school. We should have figured out what was going on. It was happening right here, just like it was happening everywhere else. Maybe we should do a political episode sometime in the future and talk the politics of real estate. I think we've got a whole nother ball game there that we might want to dive into. You know, real quick before we close up, because I want to be respectful of your time. I just learned a couple of things that we have in common. Number one, third generation realtors. Number two, that if you Google your name just like mine, an Australian sprinter comes up for me.
Oh, really?
Just like an Australian, what is it? A rugby player?
Rugby, Australian rugby. He's retired now, but he's big in the fantasy leagues.
So that's why my website is christalks.com, because Chris Donaldson, unfortunately, that dude is an Australian sprinter. He's been in the Olympics like 3 times. What is it with those Australians taking our names? And then
I don't know. That's why I'm LeeSells.com, because there's no point in being LeeBrown.com. They'll think it's him.
Absolutely. You see, we all fight that. I wish I would have done the land grab sooner. We all make those mistakes, but christalks.com/office hours. You guys that are watching, you know, it's out there. Leigh, thank you so much for giving us your time. And I'm already seeing, by the way, some people using the hashtag and putting quotes on Twitter, so they're already diving in over there. Thank you.
All right, let's get a good one.
Oh, yeah, there's good ones. Listen, I want to thank everybody for watching. We're so sorry about the Facebook Live thing. As soon as we're done, I'm going to make sure this makes its way to Facebook so that you can watch the rebroadcast. If you're interested and you like office hours, you want to know more, because here's the thing, Leigh, one of the reasons I started this show was the number 2 search engine is YouTube. And guess what? There's far too many realtors going, how do I, and then enter something really important about real estate. And I want to make sure people like me and you are there rather than Joe Schmo. I think that that's our mission and part of what we want to make sure that we do. So definitely. Any parting shots? And then Leigh, you hang in there for just 2 seconds after we end the broadcast, and then off we go. Any parting shots?
Make sure you guys keep tuning in. As long as the information is here, you need to come find that one something every week. And good luck out there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us, and hang tight.